Okay, it's all you.
Well, great. Well, it's welcome to, it's good to be on, and I'm grateful to be able to pitch in for Cheryl last minute. So I just love hearing the stories. I get excited all over again. I've been involved with the company of Juice Plus for I'm going on 19 amazing years. So I love getting to be part of the community. I love being inspired just like all of you, and we're all at different places and stages of our life. But I'm just going to share my story in about 1 minute. I'm going to do more of the training, but I love hearing the words, the shield and protection. I have been taking Juice Plus for 18 years, like going on 19 years, and I've only been to well visits. And I love being able to have good mental clarity. I sleep like amazing. I have tamed my taste buds. I used to always crave the junk food, and my immune is so strong. I only have been, like I said, to well visits. And it's just wonderful. And my kids, I love armoring them so they can go into life and filling in that guilt gaps at times. And we can do good, but we have struggles as like anybody else. The biggest blessing was my husband, who was diagnosed with terminal cancer at 37. He was just given 6 months to live. With Juice Plus and a prayer and a fighting spirit, he was able to have 8 extra healthy years. And that was a test of how nutrition, concentrated and therapeutic doses of Juice Plus can really give somebody edge and memories. And I'm just so grateful. And I got involved with the business right when we started, just to offset my cost. And I really was don't tell my husband money originally. Was just hiding my money. I had about making about $1,000 a month in a couple months, and I liked the saying yes to my children, not having to look at the price tags all the time. And then I kind of worked the business just part-time, because I cared, but I was really busy with a lot of things at that time with raising 4 children. And after my husband passed away, I just said game on, and I just put my head down. I didn't have a lot of skill. I was kind of really shy and insecure, but I just followed the system, got mentors to help me. And some of the things I'll share tonight is how I rose to the top leadership of the company. I'm a national marketing director from Georgia, and my life, I can't even imagine where I would be if I did not have all the community, the personal growth that comes along the way. And every part of the business has helped me in all areas of my life. So I thought I'd do a training tonight on mindset and consistency, and that I'd weave in some of the greatest lessons I learned by being a national marketing director in that journey of things I learned, and the confession of a national marketing director. So I hope that they can help you and maybe be more clear on the things that you want. But I want to start out with the question: have you ever wondered why some people in the company are more successful than others? Have you ever got stuck in a negative cycle and wonder why you might not be attracting or building the business that you want? I certainly have, and I think we all have. And I think that, and I know there is science behind success in this Juice Plus business. There is some luck, I guess, timing, but mostly science of having the right mind, staying consistent, and learning and evaluating when at times you have setbacks. So I'm going to train on the 3 things to how to have that warrior mindset, keys to being consistent in your business, and weave in some of the greatest lessons I learned. So one of the things that I've learned, all these things, and just kind of put them down, and just going to share some highlights for you. But you have to understand when you're growing a business is that there's certain things that you need to understand, or you won't be as discouraged. So there is no straight road. We wish we'd start a business, and just go right to the top. And sometimes you go to conference, you'll see people in a misconception is that they just effortlessly go to the top. There are ups and downs. You're going to have a learning curve. We need a buddy support system to have somebody to anchor and to hold on to us when we have discouragements. You'll have some different perceptions from different people. And a lot of times we end up talking to too few people, and then just say, well, I'm going to start and I'm just going to see how it goes. And that's really when you fail, when you just see how it goes. You really don't have a plan, and you're always waffling. I'm not going to do it, or I'm not, or today I am, and I'm going to not do it for a week, and then just kind of stop and start. It's very exhausting. But you have to talk to a lot of people, and a few people will decide. So that's one thing I want to make sure. Your mind has to be right. There is no straight road. Also, when I first started my business, I thought that I would just help everybody all at once, all different types of people. We would train together. And I learned this formula that's called the 80-15-5. The 80% of the people will be more of a wholesale mentality. They just kind of get the wholesale price. And then you have 15% that may be qualifiers that have established qualified business. But the 5% will be the leaders that leads the army. You want to be able to go back to the others. You can tap, 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 and you can kind of make sure that they're, building the belief and becoming raving fans, and timing can change. People can become re-engaged, see a bigger picture. But you have to know when you're working with the 5%. And you want to stay motivated by some of the masters, as like Cheryl Cortese, and some of those that are really strong in business, that we can understand how to navigate this amazing business. The other part is, the lesson is to learn as you go. That's the mindset you have to have, that everyone is clunky at first. I have one of my partners is going to do her very first booth at a gym this Saturday. And I'm not able to help her, but I got her all ready, and we practiced and role played. But I said, I did my first fair. I had no clue what I was doing. You just kind of learn a couple engaging intro conversations, and you know enough, and have some things that they can sign up for, some activities and events afterwards. But it will be clunky. You need to learn. Remember, you learn as you go, and you need to toss out the perfection and embrace your best gifts. You don't have to be like somebody else. We all have good gifts, and we do some basic things that are real similar in skill, but the only way you find out is by doing it. And then you understand what works and what didn't. So those are some things to consider. And then one of the things too is we're all building, you're on the call, and you particularly, this is a leadership training. So you're a leader because you showed up. Leadership is not about being in charge, and you learn about what a leader is. Leadership is about taking care of those in your charge. And so I remember when I first started my business, I was doing really well, but I was always in the front of the room making all of these things happen. So I started learning to put people in the leaders in front, and I put them on the calls. I love clapping from behind the room, and of course I do things in front of the room. But I remember one moment I was doing a big event in my home. There's about 30 people in my house. I did a great job because I grew up, you be the very best at what, I grew up and there's 8 in our family, and you just be the very best. And it was just to really work hard to be better than anybody. And one lady, they all buy, but one lady said, I can never do what you just did. And I thought, wow, I did a disservice, because I'll just keep working harder, versus if you grow a team, you work less, you have more fun. So that's when I began to change, and things began to change for my business. I had way too many customers at the front end, and I learned to start really developing leaders. So that was something I learned. And then one of the other things that I hope you appreciate is that you have to be willing to work hard, and you have to work hard to be happy as well. And I think I heard a little quote that I wrote down, and I really, really love, and I hope you do. But it says, working hard for something you don't care about is called stress. But working hard for something we love is called passion. And I think sometime I remember once my daughter, I have 4 daughters, and they're all graduated from college, but I had one daughter when she was living home for 1 year in her college time period, and she was a school teacher, and she said, I would never want to do what you do. And I said, why do you say that? She says, because you work all the time. I said, well, let's talk about it. Let's get real, okay? So you went to school, so you woke up at 5 o'clock to go teach. You had to race to school. You had to go, you stayed there all day until about 3. You hardly had a lunch break, came home. You barely had time to maybe go take a walk, come back and do all your grading, and just had such a long day. And I says, you only saw me a couple hours, but I went to the gym. I went to have lunch with a friend. I did an hour worth of work. I came back. I was able to read a book, and then I did 2 calls at night. She only saw me working on a call like this. And so, we're all going to work hard for something, but we want to work hard for a lifestyle and a life of freedom and choices. I didn't have to go to work. I could choose to get a massage. And so I always tell my kids too, is if it's easy, it's going to be sleazy. If it's hard, it's something you're proud of. So those are some things that I learned, to look at things differently, that when you work hard, because it matters. Things that are scary, it matters to you. And then I mentioned being happy. You have to have a resolve to be happy. And every day is not all hunky-dory, but I love, and I read from a lot of great mentors, and one of mine is Helen Keller. And of course, she became the first deaf blind person to earn a bachelor's degree from Harvard, being blind and deaf. And despite her challenges, she made a resolve to be happy, a resolve. And she embraced joy, and even the most, and all the odds that went against her, the difficulties she had, she acknowledges that there are difficulties is inevitable, and only through experiences of trials and suffering can the soul, he says, be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. So you have to know that you're going to have some struggles, but you resolve to be happy and look at them in the best perspective way. I don't know if you know this book called Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, and it's one of my favorite books to really have some rituals or routines or rhythms in the morning. There's 6 things, and I'm not going to have time to go through it now, but consider looking at a YouTube or looking at what he mentions, because he really researched and interviewed successful people from all walks of life, and he came down to 6. The acronym is SAVERS, SAVERS, that he puts together with the foundation for your morning with exercise. That's one of them, because you go, S is for silence. You got to have some time to quiet your mind, to kind of that meditation, to dump out the process. And of course, you can put in that visualization and scriptures and prayer into that, but silence, getting things processed out, and then having a morning routine for that. And then A is for affirmations. I love affirmations, to keep my mind right and sharp. I am statements, visualization, so I can keep my mind sharp, where my mind's going with my goals. The E is for exercise, and the R is for reading and writing. So I just wanted to mention that the fitness part is really critical. And I was doing I just got a new article, this Time magazine. I was going to the grocery store today, but it was the science of success in love, health, business, and life. But one of the things it talked about was exercise as a foundation for happiness. And daily exercise primes success in all areas of life. And there was a research in this book, I just was going through it today. It says this undeniable link between healthy bodies and high achievements and success. You have certainty, you have more consistency, you have a more community with those things we know bring happiness. But it is exercise that gets you into rhythm to make other things happen. So that kind of is a ripple effect. And I know if I find myself getting off track at times, I realize I've off of my nutrition. I haven't been as committed to my exercise routine. It's really important to know that. And I teach my team. I have a little, I went to a big personal growth retreat many years ago, and it was called the Warrior Camp. And it was in California, but it taught me the attitudes of a warrior. And if you want me to send these out to Cheryl, I can, but I'm just going to read with you. When I get kind of a little bit flat in my work time, I just read this, and I'll read it to you because it gets my brain on fire. But this is part of how my mindset needs to be before I go into the work part. I am a warrior. I act in spite of fear. I am a warrior. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I am a warrior. I do everything at 100%. I am a warrior. I do what's hard. I am a warrior. I act in spite of my mood. I am a warrior. I never give up. So those are some things I put at my little desk that keeps me on track when I don't want to do my work, because I had times struggles. I don't feel like it too, but you feel like it when you start taking action. And then knowing, so those are some things that I wanted you to know, but the right mindset, you got to have your head right. And you learn, hope you took some ideas of what I've learned as well. And then one of the things I wanted to share with you was why most people struggle in this business. And some of these things you may have realized in your business. But when you try to reinvent or avoid talking or shuffling papers or avoiding the big things, which is 3-way calls and building really strong for events, it comes down to some bottom line things. I remember I went to a conference once, and Cheryl Cortese she was sharing that when she started her business, she was a little bit frustrated after a couple of years into the business, and she was stuck. And she went to Jeff, and Jeff, he just said, well, who did you talk to today? She said, well, I was getting ready to go to conference, and I was trying to get ready for this. And he said, well, who did you talk to after conference? She was, well, I was finishing up and trying to get things after conference. And anyway, went through several times asking you, who'd you talk to? And it comes down to who'd you talk to? So we have to realize there's some main things. We have to keep them the main things. And so I was talking to a lady, one of my partners this week, and I just said, put a little sticky on your computer, and the bottom line of success every day when you get through with your day, who did I talk to today? There's no room for excuses. It's either one person, 2 people, 5 people, or 0 people. And so I thought that's really, that's what success really is. I have known in my business, I've been in a while, and at the beginning, when I ever got stressed, is because I was trying to think about maybe not doing the business. And I was undecided. My heart began to waffle. And when I just said, I'm committed, and that's when everything started opening up. And that's when providence, and that's when God opens up and the alignments are there. You got to be able to decide you're in or you're not. And we have timings where we go faster or slower, but you have to know that you make a decision and then you're going to move forward. And if you're moving forward, you're growing. And it's just timing for a lot of things because we have busy lives. One of the things too is we go to conferences because that's where we remind ourselves of what our dreams are. We get our goals, kind of revisit our goals, and we're able to really see with clarity what we need to do to move forward. So what I just gave you is really the mindset of some things I have learned. And then the second part of what I wanted to share now is how to be consistent. And I mentioned, who you talked with today, but that's really what it comes down to, is who you're telling your product story, your business story, what kind of personal growth are you engaging? Because I believe that 95% or high percent is how you feel, the posture you have, your mind, and that attracts people to your business, and that it really determines your success. So personal growth, telling your story, inviting strong leaders with connection calls, and then really developing, taking good care of your customers and building raving fans. So it's really simple things that we need to be consistent for. I wanted to let you know too, with being consistent, is I have a big dream board that's on my desk, and I see it every day. I look at it. I have words, I have pictures. It reminds me of my goals. And I have a team leader. We're talking about dream boards, and we really renamed it more of an action board. Instead of a vision board, it's an action board. It's really things you want to have to move it to action, not just dreaming about it. It's really moving it forward with some specific steps. And every day when I get up, I always think of what are my 3 top things I must do today with my business. And they have to be the bigger things. I have learned with consistency that you may have days where I'm going to be real consistent on some of the activities, but you have to plan for setbacks and failures, because sometimes things just happen. You have things that take you out of some things at times, but it does not mean that you're not, consistency does not mean perfection. You will have ups and downs. You make each day start new. And if you're improving, if you look at each week, if you're improving, then you are growing in the business. So I am really big at taking time off to recharge. And my team knows that I work hard and I play really hard. And so consistency doesn't mean that you are supposed to work all the time. I take blocks of time in my day. Like on Sunday, I don't do anything on Sunday, except I do a 30-minute pre-planning for the week call. And I typically, I just really, at certain times I'll, of course, throughout the year, I have 4 daughters and grandkids. I just take off, and I, delegate some activities or some things, calls to my team leaders. But you have to recharge, and you have to have some time where you go, I'm not always working. This is why we do this business, but keep it going and delegating some things. One of the things to help keep consistent is give yourself time to see the changes, because when you start your business, it takes time for things to catch up. You have to establish new habits. You have to understand, different, like if I could talk to all of you on the call, you have different ones that have different skills that are naturally higher in certain skills. When I started, I had hardly any skills. I mean, I was a good mama, but I didn't have a lot of, very confident in talking to people. I was really shy. I even with the phone, I would get so scared when the phone would ring, because when I was a child, it was like, don't talk on the phone. We have 8 in our family. You just didn't talk on the phone. So I had to reframe certain things, like the phone was helping people, and people, visualizing them crying, thanking me for helping them with nutrition, saving, helping them with their life. So I had to redo a lot. And I hope that gives you confidence that I learned as I went. I was patient to see the changes. And when you really want something, when my husband passed away, I really wanted that benefit packet. So I was going to go do whatever it took to not have to pay $1,200 COBRA payments every month and to stay home with my kids. So those are some things that I wanted to just tell you about mindset and consistency. And just one more thing regarding to consistency is it takes about 3 weeks, at least, of being consistent, doing something to form a new habit. And every 3 weeks, you can set a small goal to attain it in that period of time. And then sometimes we end up tackling too much at one time, and then we just kind of topple over and it just gets too much. So start small, they build and build and build, and then you're able to see some amazing things in your business. Since we only have about 10, 15 minutes left, I'm just going to go over a couple things that were my mistakes that I made when I've been journeyed through as a national marketing director. So I had vague goals. When I first started out, I just want to help people. And when I coach somebody and they say, I just want to help people, we want to know that's part of it, but you want to see, how do you want to help people? Who do you want to help? What does that mean to you? For me, I realized I want to help daddies stay home with their kids, to be able to dance at their kids' weddings, to walk down their aisle, because my husband didn't get to walk down the aisle. I walked down the aisle with my kids. And my goals are right now is to help people rewrite their stories, to have a long life, a healthy life, so they can play with the kids instead of tell your kids to go play. And I don't believe that any 18-year-old should have to be planning chemo treatments or over high school graduate plans. So those are some things I learned, is have specific goals, redefine leaders. I thought I had to be a perfect and flawless leader. And like I mentioned in my house, when somebody mentioned I can never do what you did, I had to shift and learn to be a tour guide leader. It is not about me. It's about doing things imperfectly. Since I'm a naturopathic doctor, I just started, I get up in front of a room and I just said, I'm going to read my notes to stay on track. And I did it on purpose so people could see that they could read notes. And when I start not using my notes, then my team could get scared because they realize they can't do what I do. So I have to remember that. So simplify. I want to let you know that I did get stuck at sales coordinator. I got stuck, I think a lot of people do, because it's really the place from going into a leader. And then I had to learn, I had realized I was reading so much health information and learning about the wellness and all the plants and the power plants and prevention, that I wasn't reading business books. So I realized if I was going to go to leadership, I have to spend more time reading leadership books and over health books. And that shifted for me when I started thinking of myself as an entrepreneur. And then also I realized I had to quit talking so much about myself. I had to always ask others, tell me more about you. I'll tell you more about me later, and I really learned how to share with my team to avoid selling, is really just listening, and then just say, oh, I can totally relate. It sounds like to me what you're saying is, I have some options that you may want to consider. I'm curious. Just certain words that I started using that I just really connected better with people. So my sales, I was able to close people faster and had a lot more compression in my learning curve. I was okay with people that said no, and I realized it was a lot more about timing when people said no. And I hardly ever get no's because of just how I've learned to talk and teach my team as well. Let's see what else. I guess in closing, I just wanted to, and I'll be open to questions too, but I just want you to evaluate yourself. How is your mind? What do you read? Who do you talk to? Would you follow you? We hear that at conference a lot. Are you plugging into the high paying activities in the systems? Are we avoiding the big things? Three-way connections are the biggest part of the business. And then, of course, going to events and casting vision and clarifying what you want. And I love the quote that I even have on my wall is, the choices we make determine our destiny. So that's my little training for tonight. And I'll open it up to anybody who has questions that I could be a resource to. Hope that helps.
I'll actually start, Rachel. What book would you recommend as far as like a entrepreneur leadership book for someone to start with?
I love Maxwell books. He's my favorite, one of my favorite books. And then this one, I was doing a thing with some coaching tomorrow, and this is one of my favorite ones. Just a basic overall book, and it's on the success principles of pretty much everything. But I refer to this a lot, and I have. I have books everywhere, but I was just doing some work on another thing I'm doing. But Maxwell, anything on Maxwell is phenomenal. Okay. And I was talking to Reagan Dean, a national marketing director, 100 Club from Colorado, and she got me into this whole tribal leadership book, which was awesome. And it just really helps you understand how to build an organization, a thriving organization that everybody works together and there's no competition. It's a kind of a community within each other, and you really grow faster. And one of the things I learned is that sometimes we have people, their mentality is that, like, for example, somebody will say like, all life just sucks. You know, life is terrible. Then you have somebody else that might say, my life is terrible. Then you move up the ladder and you say, I'm great, but you're not. That means you're a little bit competitive. You know, you say, well, I'm good, but you're not good. There's threat there. And then the next step is, we're all great. And the last is, life is great. So the tribal leadership is just learning how to build your organization, that it's not like, I'm not going to share my stuff, or I'm threatened by your success. It's about, there's enough in the ocean for everybody, and we're going to work together. And it's just, there's stages of leadership and building a culture of that positive leadership. So.
Right. Interesting. Thank you so much. Anybody else have questions for Dr. Rachel? Anybody else out there? Come on out and talk.
Dr. Smartt, who wrote Tribal Leadership?
Dave Logan, John King, and Haley Fisher Wright. It's called Leveraging Natural Groups to Build a Thriving Organization. And so I ask a lot. There's some really good books. I mean, I have so many, but there's some core basic books to have. And I guess for me and my organization, I always have The Compound Effect from Darren Hardy is basic. That's just a basic book. Yeah, it's a core. What's the other one?
Darren Hardy.
Yeah, The Compound Effect that's a universal book. And Eric Worre, you know, that's a big one. Those basic ones we have. So mine are The Compound Effect, all the ones by Maxwell. And if you go to the Freedom Revolution, they have a whole layout of certain books that are really good. And I have most of those, so they're all really good. So just pick one a month, or book club, you know, pick one. But The Compound Effect that's a must. Darren Hardy.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just how to connect, how to keep your mind, how to set goals. And I think the biggest thing is if you want to be successful, learning how to ink things in the calendar. And I've learned that if you don't know how to do something, just ink it in and then figure it out. Don't figure it out and then put it in your calendar. Just say, I'm doing an event, and then just figure it out. And it's better to do sloppy than to not do it at all, trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
I like that. I see a question. It looks like from Mitzi in the chat. It says, love the comments on how to talk. Can she share more that she teaches her team?
Like, give me specifics. Like, what do you mean?
Mitzi, do you want to come out, and where are you?
Sorry, I had to unmute and find myself, get everything on it. It flowed very easily that you were talking about, tell me more. And I have options. Just the way you said that it just flowed so easily and naturally. Do you have stuff that you hand out to them that you share, or what do you do?
I teach my team. This is one of the biggest things. If you're talking to somebody, you always want to ask at least 5 things before you ever have right to share. And that's how people are really excited to talk to you. And you say, you know, I have, my mom's sick. You don't go, oh, I got Juice Plus to tell you about Juice Plus. You go, tell me more about your mom. What is going on? And that must be so hard. And I try to do like 5 things and go, you know, I'd feel really feel bad if I didn't share something with you, you know, and I'm so grateful somebody cared enough to share it with me. Would you be open to hearing my story? So that more of a permission to share is really natural. And then if you're talking to somebody, how many of you, by the raise of hands, have talked to somebody and it takes forever for them to get through, and you don't know how to get in to talk about anything? And I'll say, I'll just let them talk for, you know, a while, ask questions, and then I'll go, hey, you know, I'm curious, Susie, is health important to you? What do you do to stay healthy? I kind of go right into that dive, like, I'm curious, because it's a transition and just kind of not so abrupt. But it's really, you know, I'm just asking, you have kids. I was wondering, because I work with the largest observational study in the world. Do you have kids? Did you know about the way for kids to be part of an amazing a study that getting more plants in for free? You know, so I just kind of weave it in. I'm curious. And then another thing is that when you're talking to anyone, whether it's particularly follow-ups, I teach my team this. So if I'm going to follow up with a customer, I always say one sentence that's positive before I ever ask how they're doing. For example, I'm calling, let's just say Susie, and she just started Juice Plus, and well, let's say it's the 3rd month. And so I haven't talked to her for a month or something. And I just call her and say, hey, Susie, I love calling my customers. I love seeing you being proactive with your health, and you're just such a good mom. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's different than saying, oh my gosh, I know it's getting really busy and life's so stressful. How are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because it went down. And if I think somebody might cancel, like for example, I get really good if somebody may on the edge of just understanding the value, and I get real strong, and this just comes with practice, just saying, I really love working with people that really are being, take proactive, and they're really practicing prevention, and you have not been consistent, and I have done a disservice to you, and you are a good mom. And, I just kind of throw things in, and then it seems to go, you're right. I didn't understand. I was, didn't allow it to do its work. But saying a sentence before, and like, for example, if you're going to attract somebody new into your team, when I get on, I always, of course, Cheryl has a whole outline of what we do with, so nice to meet you. I hear that your background is in this, what you admire. And then I just say, it sounds like you are really an entrepreneurial and you love working hard for things that matter. Tell me what would make you consider being a partner with us. You see how I kind of said a strong thing and then I weaved it in.
Mm-hmm.
That helps so much.
That's great.
Those are some things. And what else? Yeah, those are some things. I'm curious. Yeah, I hardly ever get somebody to say no, because I always say, it's more about education. And then I say, if you really want things to change, I got to get some more plants in your body, but we do have resources for you. And I had a little call yesterday. I had a new customer come into my funnel. I had to go find out where she came from, because things pop into your funnel if you don't have a team member that's taking care of them. So I didn't know what she was about. So I texted her and says, hey, it's so nice that, get to take good care of my customers and to be proactive, and I'm so grateful. I'm looking forward to meeting you. You have a new order going out in 2 days. Let me know if that is a good set time for you. And then I would love to give you some free resources and some recipes. And, so I wanted to make sure she wanted those free recipes so I can talk to her. Mm-hmm. So I use that language of free. I want to be a resource. My customers love when I give such and such. And another one-liner I use is, many of my customers ask, may you be one of the ones that would like to attend the upcoming Salad in a Jar event? Are you one of the ones that wanted the free resources? Or are you one of the ones that wanted to attend? That's a really good segue for assuming they're coming, So, but I've learned, I used to be terrible at it. When he passed away, I didn't even know how to talk to anybody. I have this dresser that has 2 drawers all about chit-chatting, because I was so paranoid. But I will figure it out. I will be good at this someday, because I was not good at it also. Don't think, oh, I wish I was like that, because I worked so hard on it. And you can ask my kids. I'd have people over for dinner, and my goal was to see how I could navigate and relate everybody's to the conversation, because that was scary for me. And I practiced. Mm-hmm. And my kids helped me practice it to make others feel really good about themselves, and how to weave in a natural conversationalist.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Great information. So if you were like me and writing as fast as you possibly could, I was writing all kinds of notes. I also put these out on a YouTube. So if you need, I will be sending that out and distributing it. So you can go back and watch Rachel's talk again, because there was a lot of great information. Thank you so much for sharing tonight.
Just grateful to be part of it. Cheryl called me yesterday, and I go, I'll pull something together. So yeah, good.
Yay. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right. Good night, everybody. Have a great night.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Yes.
Good night. Thanks, Rachel. Good night, Carol.
Good night. Thank
you. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Rachel and Carol.